Welcome back to another episode of the Downsizing Roadmap podcast with your hosts, Jody Roscoe and Heather Fisher. We're talking about all things downsizing, from our own experiences with clients to guest experts. Let's make downsizing easier, one conversation at a time.
Hi, welcome to Downsizing Roadmap podcast. We've got a good one today. We're talking the 4 personality patterns behind most downsizing disagreements.
Yeah, you marry somebody who's not exactly like you sometimes, and then
the good and the bad, opposites attract, and then they butt heads.
Right. Then there might be a little friction.
Yeah.
Yeah. So neither one is right or wrong, even though you think you're the one who's right. I totally get that.
Yeah.
But just understanding each other, understanding where that's coming from, and what we can do to maybe mitigate some of that. So I'm Jody Roscoe.
I'm Heather Fisher.
Yeah. So disagreements don't mean like you can't come to the right, the same place, or that somebody's right and somebody's wrong, even though sometimes you feel like that might be the case. It just might mean that, your personalities are different and you're approaching it from different ways. And so how can you better understand each other?
Yeah, I think I was going to say the same thing about the approach. Sometimes you are going to the same destination, but you don't even realize it. You feel like you're on totally different paths because your personalities approach things.
Well, and you're
so
maybe
different.
stuck on like the minutia of something, or like the actual what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You might have somebody who's so it's fine, and somebody who's like, no, I need to know the plan. Maybe that's me and Heather.
Let's talk logistics here.
It'll be good. So I think it's never about the stuff. It's not about the stuff.
Yeah.
It's just about maybe concerns or fears or, how logistically things happen. And so let's kind of just talk through what that could look like.
Yeah, some of the times when we see these personality patterns causing disagreement, here's some good examples. The visionary versus the stabilizer. The visionary is like looking way forward and
oh my gosh, we could do this, we could travel, it's going to be so amazing.
So great, right? And then the stabilizer is like,
wait, exactly how's that happening?
Yes. Sounds so familiar. But the stabilizer just wants that, they're the people that maybe don't like change as much and are not excited by everything being thrown on its end and being different and
feels
new
unstable.
And exciting. They want stability, they want constant, they want their routine. And so while they might find that happiness in that next plan, they need to know that the stability is still there underneath.
Yep. Yeah, and the visionary is feeling so excited, and then that makes them feel a little deflated, like that there's,
burst the bubble
pushback of that, which doesn't mean, honestly, that the stabilizer person doesn't really want that in the future. Understand that, yes, that would be great, and yes, I don't want to take care of the yard anymore, or whatever it is, like it's all too much, but the logistics of getting there, cause the friction there.
Yeah.
Because the visionary is not thinking about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so together, again, reasons why opposites attract, together, that is a good team. Mm-hmm. It's just realizing the approach differently and working on with each other's strengths to get there. So we'll talk about how to do that with some of these other scenarios. So another one, the fast mover versus the slow processor.
Yep, the one who makes quick decisions, ready to go, let's go, let's go. We don't need to think about all the details.
This is the person that might wake up on a Saturday morning and think, wouldn't it be nice if the living room was green? And they're already in the car on the way to, the big box store to get the can of paint, and they're ready, and the other person's like, wait, where's my coffee? Do we need to evaluate blue versus green versus beige versus white? How about we keep it how it is? You know,
that seems like a lot.
Yes.
It's different.
So different pace, different ways of getting to the same decision. They need to think through the details a little bit more, where, other people can just be like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's go.
Yeah.
So meeting in the middle there.
Yeah, the minimalist versus the keeper. Yeah, we see this so much when we do our downsizing classes. Somebody keeps all the stuff, and somebody wants to throw it all away.
Yep.
And usually they're at the table discussing that, how like, I need to throw your stuff away. And they're like, leave my stuff alone.
Yes. Don't call my stuff junk.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So people are like this. Some people are savers and they have their reasons. We've talked about that in other episodes, but they're just savers, and it's harder to see that it's okay to let go. And other people let go of their own stuff ages ago.
Yeah.
And so they have even less care
Right.
and sentimentality towards the other person's stuff.
Right.
So you're kind of on their radar. They're coming for those piles. Theirs are done, handled.
Your
and-
piles make them crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another mismatch a little bit. The last one we can talk about is the this is urgent partner versus the this is optional. So, we get to that stage in life where we're thinking, okay, we should probably think about downsizing. That's going to be something we need to think about in the future. And one person might be thinking about that all the time, even if it's years ahead. Like, we need a plan. We need to know what we're going to do. And someone else might be just a more carefree, like, oh, we'll get to that one day. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I think it's the, I need a plan person versus the, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Like, it's fine. We don't need a plan. And there are, if either way, what your personality is, like, you're so set in it that it like literally does not bother the person who's like, hey, we'll figure it out later when we get there. It's totally fine. And the person who's a planner is like freaking out because they don't have the plan, and they need to have the plan, even if it's not going to happen. Even they need to have plans for things that might not ever happen. And then they need to have plans for things that
they need to have a plan for when you're going to make the plan. Let me just tell you, this is the people that some of us are.
Right. So guess which ones we are.
I am not carefree. Let's just be honest.
I am not a planner. But we do work really, really well together. I do think we do, right? So, but because I think we appreciate that about each other, right? So we appreciate the visionary kind of, we could do all of these things. And then I appreciate the fact that she's like, yeah, but how, let's logistically walk through this, right? And so, whoever you've got, I mean, I'm sure if you have, most of you are probably have been together quite a while. And so you're probably not confused about who that person is. It's just putting this in the lens. Okay, now downsizing is in that lens of who they have always been, right? And so how can you look at it through that lens and figure out what are each of your strengths in those ways, and how can each of the strength person, do the part that they can do and make the other person feel better.
Yeah. These are not personality patterns that you have not seen in your relationship
them
before.
You know who you are. As you're listening, you're like, I know which one I am.
And you have named which one your spouse is.
Correct.
Your partner is, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think the first thing to consider in any of these is, what is the disagreement or the conflict really about? It's rarely about whatever surface level disagreement or bickering or procrastination, whatever's happening. It's rarely about that. So understanding, going back to that personality type that your partner might be, can give you some clues as to where it might be stemming from. And you can move past, you're arguing about, I don't want to get rid of this gum wrapper we talk about, and, move past that and think, okay, are they feeling stable enough in this plan? If we talk about the logistics and understand what's next a little bit further, will they be more comfortable letting go of this collection and just addressing, what's really causing the friction versus what the argument might appear to be.
And I think a lot of it is probably fear. And I think if you're looking at it like, this is urgent versus this is optional, or any of those things, fast mover versus slow mover, I think that they just react to the fear differently, right? So if it's a fast mover versus a slow mover, the fast mover is like, oh my gosh, like I'm struggling to get up the steps, and what if this turns out like worse? We've got to go. We've got to get this done. We've got to whatever. And the slow processor might think the same thing. They're afraid, but they're afraid of different things, right? They're afraid like, what's that future going to look like, and where are we going to go, and how are we going to get there? And so it's all fear. It's just which things are they worried about, and how are they going to get to the place that they need to go? But fear is a huge one, and I think for fear, the only way that you can get through the fear is finding answers to the questions. Because if you figure out what that could look like, if you do some research on where you might want to live, if you research new areas, if you're going to move to a different place in the country, or whatever that looks like, information helps fix the fear. Like information, whether that's a plan for information or whatever that is. Information will help you feel better, because the unknown is really what you're afraid of. You're afraid of, oh my gosh, what if we get to a place where we can't go up the stairs? Or, oh my gosh, where are we going to go next? And I don't know what that place is. Still fear. But if you know what that next step is, then you can get through your fear no matter where it's heading, which one you're looking at.
Yeah. Another thing we see sometimes is the fairness of the load, of the responsibility of that next step. Is one person doing all of the logistics, all of the planning, all of the actual physical work? And, how can that be balanced out to meet your strengths? If you're the visionary, be the one to take the lead on going to take tours of where you're going next, and get excited and lead with that. And, if you're the logistics planner, be the one that's scheduling appointments and, maybe deciding what you're doing on which weekend and how you're fitting it into your schedule. Lean in, but making sure that you are, just balancing that load into your strengths, so you're not letting each other down by agreeing to do something that's not the part that you're going to succeed at.
Or I want to do this, so you're going to have to do it all. I think that we see that sometimes. It's like, oh my gosh, I want to make this change, so this is all on you now. And so, be careful of that, because then, that feels unfair, and then that feels like, hey, I'm not doing that. So sometimes it's grief. Like it feels like it's a change that's a loss instead of a change that's exciting. And I think that's a mindset problem. And we talk about mindset in other episodes a lot. But sometimes some people feel like it's a closing of a chapter, and some people are ready for that chapter to close, and some people are not ready for that chapter to close. Yeah. And, some people feel very sentimental about that, and some people feel like, yep, I'm good. I'm past this time frame in my life. I'm ready for the next one. And getting on the same page about that, I think, is something that can help with that grief and turn it into something that's exciting. So we talk a lot about step number 1, which is to be dreamy and really start thinking about where you're going to go next and what that's going to buy you. If you decide you want to downsize, what are all the positives that you get from that, and figure out what those are, and that can help you come to the same place together, I think.
Yeah, another obstacle is sometimes one person is feeling unheard. They're just feeling tension because not only are they not on the same page, but one partner isn't giving the other partner even that room to try to get on the same page and have those conversations. So I think step 1, if you are just in different places with your partner, always starting with conversation, to understand where each other's at in the process, even if it's not the same place. When you have that understanding and that knowledge of where someone else is coming from, you can give a little bit more space to get on that same path.
Yeah, you could together, right, answer this question, what's the actual fear underneath my resistance? Because the first thing you say isn't it. So if the first thing you say is, well, I don't know what to do with all this stuff, It's not about the stuff. It's about, I'm afraid that I'm going to lose these memories, or what is it that you're actually afraid of? And something that we do on our real estate team when we try to figure out what somebody's motivation is for something is we ask questions 3 deep, right? Yeah. So the question is, what's my actual fear? And you'll answer it, oh, I don't know what to do with my stuff. And then the next question is, well, tell me more about, how you don't want to, what do you mean? What are you concerned about with your stuff? And then it might be like, well, I have all of my mom's stuff. It's going to make me feel guilty. Like if I get rid of it, and you just need to keep going down, and what could make you feel better about that, or how much of that do you actually need to keep to not feel guilty, or whatever. But dig in deeper to what the actual fear is, and it's not going to be the first thing you say. It's going to you're going to have to dig a little bit deeper than that, because the first thing you're going to say are the easy things. I don't want to move because I'm comfortable here. That's not the problem. The problem is I feel overwhelmed by this whole process and I can't even imagine doing it. Or, I don't know what my future is going to look like and that scares me, so I'm just going to stay here comfortable. Or, whatever it is, there's a bigger fear. And so until you get to the place where you almost feel like you want to cry about it, because that's like, it's so, then that's now how you've gotten to the place where you've uncovered the real fear, and then you can address that. And you might find that your real fears are the same as your partner's fears. It's just outwardly you're saying different things, but when you get to the actual fear of the at the bottom, it's the same.
Yeah, a good way to get to that root is talking about just 3 different parts of the process. The past, here's what this home has meant to me. And so starting there, not dismissing everything about that home that you live in, but just really talking about what it's meant to you. And then moving on to the present, but here's what feels hard right now, and talking about why it's either not working currently, or how you fear it won't work in the near future, or what you want to make sure works for as long as possible. You're talking about the present situation, and then moving to the future. Here's what I want life to feel like 5 years from now. And that's back to that dreamy step, that dream it step. And depending on where you're at, you as one of 2 people might have to lead one part of the conversation more because you're more excited about the future, or you're more sentimental about the past. Be the leader, but making sure that your partner feels heard in the part that they need to lead. If you're okay with one of those, don't just skip and go, okay, well, that's fine. It's fine. Yeah. Making sure that you're both leading and hearing in each of those stages will really help you figure out how to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, that could go like, here's what this home has meant to me. Like, we have so many memories of our kids growing up in this house, like this home is comfortable and I love it, right? But here's what feels hard right now. It's too hard to take care of the yard. It's too hard, to go up the steps. It's just too big. I don't want to, clean it. It's too much, right? And then here's what my life could feel like in the future, and envision that smaller space and what you can do with your time. And then you can go back to, here's what my home has meant to me. Maybe that time is done, and your home has done all the things that it needed to do for you, and your next home can do different new things for you. And so if you go through the process acknowledging all of the things, then sometimes that can just help you get to a forward place.
Yeah, and those conversations lead to some of those mini solutions.
Yeah.
Like I heard, you say how much raising the kids in this home meant to you. What if we preserved the growth chart from the back of the door and found a spot for it in the new home? I know that that's one of your favorite things to look at. Or, I hear, how much you loved the time when you're mom lived here with us. How about we preserve these teacups, collection, and then we know that we can get rid of, the closet full of clothes. And you're finding those solutions by knowing what those most treasured items are.
Yeah. So the red, yellow, green method. So every person labels their decisions like, in, green, I'm ready. I can look at new houses. I'm good on that. Yellow, I'm not ready to look at new houses quite yet. I need this before I can do that. Red, I am totally not interested in this at all. Just to kind of give yourself, just test the waters of like, hey, how are you feeling about this? And if it's red, then there just needs to be a lot more conversation around, back to the fears. Like we need to kind of go back one more to be like, okay, why is that the case? Some people feel like I don't see the reason. Like I know you feel like you have these reasons, but I'm not, feeling that. Right. And if it's yellow or green, even if it's yellow, that just means I'm concerned or I have caution, right? But there's a path forward in that. And so that yellow zone's going to reveal that path forward, way to get some good conversation going around it. So
yeah, and it gives you a way to strategize to do, those yellow and green categories first. Can move a lot of those red categories more into yellow once you see progress. So if, you start with, let's clean out all of our photos today, and that's a red category. I'm not ready to do that, but you say, let's, downsize the garage today. Okay, cool, let's do that. You're starting with those easier things that aren't that red light, and you're gaining some progress once you've built that momentum, and then you revisit where are you feeling on that red, yellow, green. On some of the ones that were red, you'll notice, they have likely changed.
Yeah. Yeah. And once you get started, you do get some momentum, and then you can tackle the things that are harder. So don't try to tackle the hardest things first. Just don't do that. That will actually stall you longer, because then you will just be like, I can't do any of this. This is just all way too hard. So whatever you think is the easiest thing, start with that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
And sometimes you just need to really define who's in the lead of different parts of it, right? And do that by whatever your wheelhouse is. If you, Heather was saying this earlier, if you're the planner, then you're the one who makes appointments and makes sure you make the appointments. If you're the visionary, maybe you're on there looking at condos and like, what's the next place that you want to go, showing them to the planner, who then can make the appointment or whatever. Just figure out what you're good at and which way you can do that. Maybe it's like somebody's good at taking the stuff and what stays and what goes. Maybe somebody's not as good about that. So you just have to make sure that you're honoring each other too. Stuff you don't want to have it be like, I'm responsible for all of your stuff to get rid of, and then that person gets upset when you get rid of it. So we can't have it can fall into some places that aren't great if you aren't really working together and understanding each other.
Yeah, just always more questions. How can I, help you best through your collection of, this or that, and just making some deadlines and some just agreed upon check-ins, and asking for help, but not overbearing, and giving help where it might not be might not be help.
I think we see that sometimes, and I think that's like a years of built-up frustration for people who are keepers and people who are not keepers that are in a relationship together, where the person who's the not keeper is the one who wants to deal with all the stuff and basically throw away all the keeper stuff because they think it's all junk. And so sometimes, honestly, having a third party come in to help you with that, if that's been the dynamic in your life, sometimes having a third party come in to get you started on that is really helpful. Somebody that doesn't have that years of frustration built up with each other, because stubbornness can come in, and some of the things can come in. And if you have somebody who's a professional organizer, or somebody who can help with that downsizing, moving, we have people who are like that. So if you need help, let us know, and we can point you in the right direction of who that could be to help you. But sometimes that third party is the one who can get you over that hump.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes the disagreement is on timeline, not just that we need to downsize or don't, but it's when do we get started. So if one person is really eager and the other isn't quite ready, maybe just start with a single area, try some mini decluttering projects. We have lots of episodes with little mini challenges and ways to get started. Maybe just book one professional to come in for whichever obstacle you're up against next. Maybe one tour or a lunch and learn. There's lots of fun events to get into communities if that's something you're trying to just build a little momentum around. But just try to get some excitement going without committing to anything.
Yeah, I mean, we all, whether we're moving or not, could stand to let go of some of our things, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be, we're going to clean this whole out so we can move, immediately. It can just be like, hey, it's time, we have those 5 boxes in the back corner of our storage haven't been opened in 10 years. Like maybe we could take a minute and get rid of that stuff.
Yeah, I find myself, I have my brain's going on ideas all the time, and I forget that I haven't told my husband any of it yet. And so I kind of spring on this big project idea, whatever, and definitely know the way our styles work. He's a planner, and I need to remember that and baby step, hey, I have this idea. Can we talk about it this weekend? And then we talk about it. I'm like, hey, if we're going to do that, could we, do that one weekend this spring? And then, hey, which weekend? And, but if I woke up on a Saturday morning and said,
we're doing the garage today.
Yes, that would just be an absolute no, even if it's something we both want in the end. We were just talking about that. I'm like, hey, we have a lot of landscaping to do at our new house this spring. Can we kind of talk about what that looks like, how many weekends, what kind of stages do you want to break this up into, and just get that ball rolling. Just make sure you don't not talk about that timeline and have totally different expectations.
Yeah, some questions that you can ask about your life season check-in, what needs to be true for you to feel ready. So if somebody's like, I'm not ready, I am not ready. That's back to there's fear there that you need to uncover. So what would need to be true for you to feel ready? And they might say, well, all of your junk needs to be gone, or maybe it's, I just don't think we need to, whatever. You need to get into what is it that would make them feel ready. So that will help you uncover whatever the fear is if you're not getting it from some of the other conversations. And then what life change would signal the right time. But don't let the life change be something that's catastrophic, because then what ends up happening is the one person is doing it themselves.
Yeah.
Whether that means that the other person isn't physically capable, and so the one or isn't even here anymore. We absolutely don't want you to get to that position. If you are there, then we can help you. There's people that can help you. But it's much better if that isn't the life change that would signal, something.
Yeah, and we talk all the time in our downsizing class. People come to it and they tell us, right in the first words in the door, I'm not ready to downsize. I'm just here, but I'm not ready. And we tell them that's perfectly fine. You could get through the first 3 steps of our 5-step method and stop right there. But you have that peace of mind then and that comfort that if something changes, then I am, as ready as I can be up to this point. So those questions are great to find out what would make the other person feel ready or feel that it's the right time. But it's also, on the flip side, a great time to reassure them, okay, well, let's just be up to this point ready well before then. And we're not, jumping into a move right now. We're just starting to get ready.
Yeah, you don't have to pick a move date, maybe just another time to, discuss it. But also, I think if you just can both agree to get started, I think we get a lot of people that come to our classes that are like, it's going to be 2 years, it's going to be 3 years, because they really think they can't imagine it going faster than that, because they feel so overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that they have and the decisions that needed to be made and all of that stuff. And then if they can just agree to just get started on it, then they end up going so much faster than they thought they were going to. And so it might be 6 months or it might be a year, and they're like, oh my gosh, like I've been working on it. Like we'll get people all the time that'll be like, hey, I went to your class and it's been a few months, and they're like, I was working on this, the garage is totally clean now, and and they'll tell us, I love hearing the updates of where people have started, and you can feel the energy that's so different than from the energy when they first came into the class and were just feeling like so overwhelmed. Their energy is like, okay, I got that done, and now we're working forward. And so your timeline might change once you get started, because when you just start to talk about it, it can feel so overwhelming that your timeline's so long, because you're just giving yourself such a long time because it seems totally impossible.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Another thing we see disagreements on is what you want in that next home, space-wise or features-wise. So one suggestion is to just make, a list of your non-negotiables and your nice-to-haves and compare those. How can you get to a list that is one list for the two of you, that is the absolute non-negotiables and the nice-to-have, but be on that same page before you're trying to just completely go one way or another. Talk about what those needs are and why, and back to those curiosity questions. Are you really going to continue this hobby, or is there another way to fit it into your life without a full basement? Do you really have to keep all these things? Yes, we definitely want to be somewhere walkable. All of those things. Make sure you get on the same page with that wish list.
Yeah, and they might be a little bit different of wish lists, and that's okay too. Everybody can kind of get what they're looking for. So, one question that you can get to this is how am I going to use my time, or how am I going to use my space? Like, does somebody need a hobby room? Does somebody want, like you said, walking paths? Like I'm going to spend some time walking the dog. I'm going to, what is it that you guys are going to do in the next place, so that you feel comfortable making the decision to move, because that you are going to have a room for those hobbies that you do, or you're going to be able to walk the dog at the next place. It's still going to have sidewalks and, or whatever. There's a park next door, whatever it is, that you have a place that you can do the things that you want. Some people want it to be private and quiet. Some people want it to be, in a walkable place where they can go to restaurants or something. Like, it's, just different. So you just both need to know what it is that you're looking for. Yeah.
And is there a way to test drive, some of those things if you're unsure? Is it closer to kids but in another state? Can you go rent an Airbnb for a month and see, what life is like there? Or, in warmer climate, do you really love that? Do you love living in an RV, or is that a bad plan? We've talked about that before.
Right.
Can you just kind of test it out a little bit without fully throwing everything into it?
Yeah, committing.
Yeah.
And I think, again, all of that, what you're doing there, all of that is information gathering. Okay. And back to information will help you stop being afraid. And so all of that, no matter how long any of that takes, you're still moving forward. Everything that you're doing as you're gathering information is from each other, or decisions, or, going and looking at properties, or going and touring, community, whatever it is, that's all decision making, because you're learning more information, and the more information you have, the better that you can make a decision.
Yeah, absolutely. So when one partner can't physically help, that definitely brings a dynamic that's hard sometimes. And that's just the situation with health issues sometimes. But making sure that if that's the case, that, you're supportive of bringing in those outside resources. You're not just expecting one person to do it all. And if you're the caregiver and you are doing it, Don't have any guilt about needing to ask for that help. We've connected people with tons of resources that just make it easier. You do not have to get through it completely alone. Let us know what you need and who can help, and we'll fill in those gaps for you.
I think the guilt goes both ways, because I think sometimes the person who can't help just doesn't want to move because they don't want to put it all on the other person. And so they feel guilty about not being able to help. And so then they're not supportive of the whole thing, because that makes them feel, bad that they can't be helping. And so the guilt has to just go away from both sides. It has to be, don't even, in the beginning, don't even think about the logistics of maybe how it's actually going to happen. Start thinking about what we want the future to look like. And then after you've decided what you want that future to look like, then we can figure out how to get there and who can help. And it might be your kids, and it might be professionals, and either way, it's totally fine. There are absolutely people out there to help. And so don't worry about the logistics in the beginning, and don't feel guilty about what level you can, put towards it. And if it's the caregiver who's saying, I think we need to go, maybe that just means that it's all too much in the house. Maybe that just needs to be something else that they don't have to, spend time on, because, there's only so much time in the day, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But there's so much relief. I mean, we met with a client recently and brought along some resources that she didn't even know existed. And just that relief of knowing there are people that can help, can just change a whole situation.
Oh, it was like visible on her face. Like,
yeah.
As soon as we said, hey, it's okay, we've got these people that can help. And
yeah.
The overwhelm can just paralyze you, honestly. So if that's how you're feeling, just reach out to us and we'll talk you through, all of the possibilities, and kind of help you with a little roadmap on that. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Celebrating wins. Make sure as you go through this, I mean, we can't say that enough. I mean, we talk about that in our business as well, but every milestone is a win, big, small, give yourself some grace. And, when you get through a closet together, or you each get through closets separately, as you do that, go out, have some dinner, get some ice cream, take a walk, whatever that looks like. Make sure that you're celebrating, all the reasons that you were attracted to each other as opposites to begin with, and all the love that you've brought into that home that you're in, and put some revisiting to that dream of where you're going next.
Yeah.
And that you'll get there and do that together.
Schedule the trip out a little ways, and give that to yourself as a reward. Maybe it's financial freedom. Maybe you're taking the equity from your property and you'll end up not owing anything, or you'll end up being able to take that money that you've gotten from the equity of your house and do something with it that you've always wanted to do. So if that's the case, put that up on your fridge, and that's what you're working towards. Just really remember what you're working towards as you're in the trenches of dealing with it.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys got this, and we look forward to talking to you again next week. If you need any resources or want to reach out to us for some help with these conversations or resources, downsizingroadmap.com is the best place to find us.
We have a free guide.
We do have a free guide, downsizingroadmap.com/guide. We've got some tips for couples in there in that free guide. So if you need some extra help, please make sure to ask for that, and we will be back again next time.
Talk to you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on the Downsizing Roadmap podcast. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who might need a little downsizing inspiration. Have questions or ideas for future episodes? Reach out to us on our website, www.downsizingroadmap.com. Until next time, let's keep simplifying and moving forward.